What's up, everybody? I hope you all are having a fantastic morning, afternoon, whatever time or day you're watching this. Once again, I'm here with another live podcast with Ryan from Codex Entry. You want to go by Ryan or anything else?
Ryan works.
Ryan works. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. How are you doing, man?
We talked a little bit about it before. Both kind of sick, both kind of getting over some stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
it's been an intense week.
Oh, it's been like ever since like me and you were both talking about it. Ever since we both agreed to this, it's just like life hit us both at once.
Yeah,
Couldn't have planned that out perfecter.
yeah. I think we're like 573 days into 2018,
Yeah,
something like that.
so we got to be close, right?
Yeah.
About like 10 months in, just it's ridiculous. Anyways, so I did a live podcast with Fox, and he said that he mentioned you in it a lot. And he said that you were a really cool guy, and I was like, okay, cool. So I never heard of you. And I started watching your content. I was like, God, this guy's like kind of like me. He attacks games the way I do. He looks at games the way I do. He's much better at it than me because he can actually translate that into videos for his channel. Where
Oh,
I'm
thank
still,
you.
no problem. Well, I'm still at the attempting phase. And he's just like, and I messaged Fox about, I want to say like 3 days after, like, hey, would you mind if I asked him on for a podcast? Because he told me, talk to me about you a little bit. I was like, he's like, yeah, sure. I didn't want to, step on any toes or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I asked you, and sure enough, you said yes. And then, 3 weeks later, here we are finally.
And then life happened like constantly for the next 21 days.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Like you said yes, and I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be awesome. So I started, doing my precast stuff, and then just boom, everything hit at once. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Uh,
God.
yeah, pretty much. So, anyways, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Fox to start this off. What started you down the YouTube route? Like, what was the what? When was it like? I'm gonna do YouTube.
Um, I've always been like really big into YouTube. I've been following, especially the game analysis scene, like forever. It was kind of like, one of those things where it's just like I have an hour to kill, or I'm playing a game and I want to listen to something. I wouldn't throw on a podcast. Sometimes I'd throw on like an album or something, but just as often I'd throw on like Noah Gervais or Digibro or something like that. Just and just kind of like absorb while I'm doing other things. Um, and then like as that kept happening, like the world would continue to go on around me, and I'd begin to form my own opinions, and I'd be like, I want to like broadcast these because there are things I think are problems that no one's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll never be able to really explain it, but literally just one day I woke up and I was like, today's the day I need to make a video. Like for some reason I just had that compulsion in me. And this was before I knew how to edit. This was before I knew how to do anything related to video production. So uh, I basically spent like literally the next 3 days nonstop, full 16-hour days, just putting a video together. And that was the very first video that wound up on Codex.
I remember those days. I
Oh, yeah.
remember. I remember when it was just like, screw it, I'm gonna do it. Mine happened back in 2000. I want to say 2010. A friend and I were here at my house, and we were just sitting around doing nothing. And he's just like, okay, well, I'm like, hey, why don't we do a YouTube channel? And he's like, yeah, screw it. Yeah, we're young high school kids, whatever. And we started filming a video, and it was like 10 minutes long, and that's about it. It was horrible. Horrible. It got 37 views. I was so excited, but still horrible.
Yeah, like as far as first videos go, mine did pretty well. I think it hit like 1,000 views within a month,
That's
something like that.
ridiculous.
Like it kind of got traction on Reddit, and I like not huge traction, obviously. 1,000 views wouldn't count as huge traction, but like it got noticed, and like what was it? but yeah, I look back at that first video and God, I did not know how to edit. I did not know how to do anything. But it's one of those things where it's like, you got to start somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, when was this? This was what, 2000, a year
This
ago?
was 2016 in August. So a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Like,
That's not bad. That's about when I started. That's when I started with a couple friends of mine. We did we had another YouTube channel, Nilfinity Productions, and we were doing comic book content.
okay.
Because I was always like a comic book guy growing up, and we didn't really have video games. But anyways, so then you started your YouTube channel, and you got 1,000 views. So then, what was it? What was the moment? Was it like, okay, well, I can go after this now?
Um, well, it wasn't even really that. It was more just like, well, this is just part of my life now. And once I started working on that first video,
Mm-hmm.
it was one of the few times, like, as I was going through it, I was just like, wow, this is something I really enjoy doing. Like, especially the process of like video editing, because that's by far my favorite, like, step of like creating content.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really enjoy the writing. I take a lot of time for the writing, but like that's actually like emotionally draining. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where you have to take a lot of time and it can be like just exhausting. Recording audio, I've said this a million times, but recording audio sucks. You either get the take right or you don't.
And
And
then
then
you
you
got to
just have to
restart.
sit. Yeah, and then you have to sit there and like listen back and then edit it and all of this stuff. It's not fun. There's nothing creative that goes into it. But like video editing, like as I went through that first video, I was just like, this is awesome. I adore this. This is so much fun for me because you can do all kinds of wild, stupid things. Um, and like once I felt that, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this because I actually enjoy this. And I kind of people who have been with my channel since before like it actually started to pick up traction
Mm-hmm.
uh will know that originally I had a set schedule. Every Wednesday I would drop a new video.
Mm-hmm.
uh I missed one or two Wednesdays, but for the most part I would drop a new video every Wednesday, uh mainly because I was hoping one of them would pick up, but and didn't really happen. But like my big thing was just like, I know I know I'm at a stage where I'm not as good as I could be, and the
Mm-hmm.
only way I'm going to get past that stage is by continuing to make stuff. And the best way to continue to make stuff is to set yourself to a schedule. So I
I'm kind of at that point. I'm trying. I'm trying to like,
yeah, like it's hard. It's really hard. Like
it's balls hard. Everybody's just like, it's so easy. Just stick to a schedule. I'm like, do you know how hard it is to get any schedule going at all? Especially like when you're
yeah.
like, I now have to block out time so I can, think of a video, edit a video, and then like for some of the like I have an idea for a video I've been trying to do now for well over 3 months, and it's like every time it's like 16 hours of research to get into this video. Then once you get that done, it's like, okay, now you got to plot out your bullet points, and it's like 4 pages of notes
Yeah.
translates to 3 pages of bullet points. Then you enter the recording, and then it's just like boom, you got no time. I'm just like, fuck. That's just it's ridiculous. But yeah, I
Yeah.
feel your pain with the scheduling.
Like for me, I would respond with that with just like it kind of hits a wall where it's just like it doesn't matter if it's as good as you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep going because it's by keeping going that you're going to get better. And then at least for me, I eventually hit a wall, and you can like literally see this on my channel if you look at all of my videos where I was just like, I could tell that the schedule was doing more harm to my creativity than good. So I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of dropped it, and that's where we hit that point where I just uploaded when things are done. And that's when my videos actually started to really pick up. That's where you got the Persona 3 video. That's where you got the Metacritic video and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that's where my channel started to actually like hit 1,000, 2,000 subs.
Yeah, that's what like, and that's really hard to do on YouTube is to not have a schedule and then still maintain like a growth pattern and a growth arc like that. You know what I mean? Because usually it's just like if you're not up like the algorithm they say if you're not uploading once at least once every couple of days, it'll forget about you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm kind of like I had this conversation with Fox and I said like for a while now, the big popular thing with gaming on YouTube was Let's Plays, you know, like these 5-10 minute videos of which is, oh, we're playing Shadow of the Colossus or we're playing this new game that's coming out. But I feel like gaming we're getting to a point now where the kids that were watching those 5 years ago, that were in the like 9-10 range, are now at the 16 to 17 range. And they want a little more out of their gaming
Yeah.
content on YouTube. And I feel like that's where we're going to end up going and that's what I want to try and do when this is a video, like the main videos I put out, I want to do like a Comics Explained meets Philip DeFranco, where I cover the news, I give you my opinion on it, but it's also it's a very conversational thing. Because I feel like too often in gaming content, I'm going to talk to you about this thing, and I'm just going to tell you this. This is what happened. Look at this news that, you know, like Naughty Dog is making Uncharted 7, whatever. You know, and, oh, isn't that cool? But no, let's talk about, let's go. I want to go in more depth. And you can kind of see that over the last, like, 8 months is when I really started, like, the last 8 months is when I really started pushing on my channel. You know, and that's when I started getting interviews. And my first one was with the guys from Mega Man 2.5D. And Peter, Kat, you guys are amazing. You know, Peter watches all my videos, or yeah, I know he's watched some of them. He's a cool guy. Kat's awesome. We BS to this day. And then like I got Milton, and like when Milton said yes, I was dancing. It was just like, oh my god, the guy who made a Metroid game said yes. You know, I gotta tell my mom and stuff like that. And my mom and dad, not interested in video games or whatever. And they're just, oh, well, that's nice, honey. Oh, whatever. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. She goes like, how is this significant? And I go in my 30-minute spiel about how this was so interesting and how this was like a big moment for fan games and all that. And she's just like, mm-hmm. And you know, the eyes were glazed over, but I just didn't care. I still went into my spiel.
But pats you on your knee. That's great, honey.
That's great. Good job. But then my last one was with Blake. That was that was like my pie in the sky. I never thought he'd say yes, and he did. Like I sent him the email, and he said yes that night, like 5 minutes after the email. And that was when I just screamed. It was like 11:05 or whatever at night, and I screamed yes. And then just like, oh my god, and like I feel bad for my parents and for my brothers, for my friends that are like in no way interested in gaming, but then like they got to deal with this uber nerd who's sitting there like, oh my god, it's so interesting. They're like, why is this interesting, Joe? And their eyes glaze over again, and it's just that's okay.
Like you like yeah like I was very much I still am very much the same kind of person that like if anyone gives me permission to rant at them about games, I will do so until we both hate me, like you know. And like what was it, and that's almost my channel is almost an extension of that, you know. Like the who made this videos, the biographical stuff I do is basically me trying to bridge that gap in a lot of ways of like I go into those assuming that the person who like is watching knows nothing about this person, potentially knows nothing about games, and I'm just trying to sell them on why this person is cool and interesting and worth knowing.
Yeah, I got an I'll tell this story because this happened to me about 3 months ago, like around around Christmas time. Me and my friend, it was like, what game came out in December last year? I can't remember. Anyways, I was there to pick up that game, and there's this mom and dad. They walk up and they're like, "Do you know anything about these video games?" And it was just like, yes, I do. And my friend just pats me on the back and walks away.
No.
And you can like she was like it was my friend described it as the scene from Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Or not the Crystal Skull, but like in the Lost Ark when they melt, they open up the casket and they melt. And he's just like, he goes, "You were having the time of your life." He goes, "You went into sales numbers, you went into, different studios. They did not give a rat's ass about it all. But you know what? You know your stuff." But
you ask and you get what you ask for. Like,
yeah, they just decided to tap on the shoulder of the wrong person, I guess. But that was kind of like that. That's kind of the reason why I do it. I'm trying to find that balance, because like for me, I don't know. It's probably the same for you because I get it from your videos that you're into video game history and the designers and the studios and all that.
yeah,
Where I'll come home and like say I can't sleep at night. I'll open up my iPad and I'll just sit there and I'll read up on anything I can find about a studio or whatever. And next thing you know, it's like 2:00 in the morning, and well,
yeah. But like for me, it's one of those things. Like I've like I mean this was basically my first video, but like to this day I find it really weird that we don't really think about who is making our games and like who's behind them. Like we'll go on and on about how great this film director is or how awful this film director is or so on and so forth, but with very few exceptions, like don't get me wrong, there are famed game creators out there without like no debate, but like everyone knows who Michael Bay is. Everyone knows he's directed Transformers. Who's directed Call of Duty?
No idea.
Exactly. Like, and that to me is just weird. And that's one of those things that just constantly like just scratches at me. And like that's where kind of for me it's more for me it comes from a place of almost indignation of like, we should know this. Why don't we know this?
Mm-hmm. Well, how much of that do you think it is because, like, back in the NES era, or even to the extent with the Atari era, like, game developers didn't put their names out there because they were afraid that they were going to get poached. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
How much do you think is still translated out into today? Because, like,
I
feel
think
like it has to have something to do with it, but it doesn't have everything to do with it,
I think it definitely is to a degree because I've never worked in the game industry, but like, I've talked with developers and I've listened to developers talk, and it seems to even this day still be kind of a continued fear. Like a good example that I can think of is what was it? I watched this playthrough that the director and lead designer of Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal did of Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. And great playthrough. I think if I remember right, the channel name is Useless Podcasts. I think that's it. If you haven't seen that, and if you like Ratchet at all, if you are interested to hear a game designer talk about their own game, it's a great watch. It's fantastic. But one thing they talk about is at the end of the game, when the credits are playing, all of the names are listed alphabetically. And the reason for that is they didn't want to get poached.
Okay.
So that's still like, and admittedly, this was like 2005, I want to say. So it's been a minute, but still, it's been that recent that like, that I can confirm that it's still a concern, So I still, I do think that that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, but how much of it? Like, what's the other reason? Like, we know of some people. Neil Druckmann, Bruce Straley, Amy Hennig from Naughty Dog. I'm trying to think of another Shigeru Miyamoto, Keiji Inafune, Teki. I'm gonna butcher his name. Makes Smash, Smash Bros too.
Masahiro Sakurai.
Yeah, Masahiro Sakurai. Yeah. So we know of these guys, but like, one of my favorite games of all time is Shadow Complex. I don't know anybody from that. I'd love them on for a podcast because I love that game. That is like a modern day Metroid. It's just so good. But that's
Yeah.
another thing. But why don't we do that? And it's like I watched that video, and we as a gaming community should try and strive to make it so that these people are known, and because they need to be celebrated. Like, it's amazing to see the struggles. Like, if you had I'm reading Jason Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. Have you read it yet?
Oh, no, I haven't read it.
And I think what the tagline is every game is a miracle that it was ever made, because it's all about like a bunch of canceled games, and we should be celebrating these people that make these games, because especially nowadays, because there's recently there's that argument anymore is, are video games art? Should they tackle all these sensitive subjects? And yeah, I'd say yes. I think it's cool that we're finally seeing video games tackle subjects like Detroit Become Human is coming out next month or 2 months from now. Can't remember. Either way, it's coming out, and that game is gonna tackle like humanity. What is humanity? What is abuse and all that other good jazz. Like there's so many interesting topics that game is gonna tackle in its own. So, and I'm excited to see that. And I think games should tackle that. So we're in this new era where we're actually at that point where we need to, celebrate that. And we need to celebrate the people that made these games and then, do these things. Kind of like how movies and television and books were.
Yeah, and it's games are finally kind of hitting this stride where they're becoming a lot more comfortable tackling like really hefty themes and kind of, for want of a better term, big ideas. And that's always kind of been a thing. Like, you go back and look at, Planescape Torment, like that alone proves that this has been going on for a while. But like it's becoming more and more so recently. And I try and imagine like a game like Spec Ops: The Line coming out like 10 years ago, and say what you will about that game and how it succeeded, but it's a game that undeniably strives for something bigger. It's a game that clearly wants to be talking about like really hefty ideas and doesn't really pull any punches. And I couldn't imagine a game that visceral getting released on the PS2.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. It's just sad that we don't know like those people, like you said in your video. We really should. And it's just sad that we're not getting out there yet. And yeah, there's the things like the Game Awards that's helping to an extent.
Yeah.
But how cool would it be that if like Sony or Xbox or Nintendo was like, here's the game director from this game that was super amazing. Kind of like what they did with Super Mario Odyssey or Super Mario Odyssey or the Breath of the Wild, where they brought the game to the actors out and they talked about it a little bit to help to celebrate them. But like these guys are just one part of a bigger team, and they always say that, but it's just sad that we don't know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like that's the other thing that like, because like I always talk a lot about directors, but I do that mainly because like, the director is kind of the most influential person on the production, but like it really is on any game that's like has more than one person working on it. It's always going to be immeasurable the level of impact everyone else has, like it's like people working on a game, and like it can be real easy to look at like one person and say there we go, but like that's kind of a big part of the reason why like with game analysis, one thing I never really see anyone do is taking kind of auteur readings to it, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't. Auteur readings. Never heard that actually.
Basically, within film theory, there's a concept of the auteur, which is basically the director. The movie comes from the director. Everything in the movie is a direct, like, is a direct result of the director making the choices that they made. And as such, it's basically made almost exclusively by the director. Um, and like, it's a theory I don't really buy into personally, but it's one that can be really useful and be really insightful. Like, you look at something like any number of Kubrick movies. And if you take those as just movies that are there, they're great movies. But once you take them into like the mindset of this is something made by Stanley Kubrick and what his life was and all of that, like you begin to get a lot of insights into how those movies function and think and what they actually value. Uh, and to that end, like we have in games, we have a lot like basically the standard way to read a game is to just see the game as its own thing. It's just there, it exists, and that's kind of the end of the story. And kind of what I think is valuable to do and should be done more is look at, you know, the director and kind of apply what he or she thinks and has done and all of that, and how perhaps their other works can come in and like be read into it as well, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of what auteur theory is. Like,
Okay.
it's not the best description I think I could do of it, but yeah, I think you get the idea.
Okay.
Like, the best way I can think of it, the best comparison I can think of is in the same way you would think of as a book be like as written by one person, in the same way like Lord of the Rings was written by Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Auteur theory suggests that films are
Aren't made by that
made.
one.
Yeah, exactly, and
Gotcha.
by proxy, that gets extended to things like games and music and so on.
Okay. So like I think this is a good jumping off point then where we can actually like go in and let's talk about like the video game industry as a whole. You know, like let's break it down into like we'll go with the big three. You know, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Because like I feel like this generation in particular has been amazing to watch unfold, you know, with Nintendo starting off with the Wii U and it being starting death, basically being dead last.
Yeah,
No one predicted that the PS4 was going to be the way it was, and then you got Xbox kind of trying to do its own thing after colossally fumbling the ball.
yeah.
So which one would you like to start with?
Um, like Dior's choice.
I'm gonna give it the guess. Like, if you want to start with your strongest one, if you want to start with the one that you know the least about, or whatever, whichever one you're more comfortable with. Because like I think each one of these can be a podcast in their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I don't know, which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the PlayStation then.
Okay, PlayStation it is. So, where do you stand with them?
I mean, I have a PS4. I'm literally touching a PS4 right now. So
It's
like,
like your safety blanket. And just
yeah,
touch.
yeah, like the PS4 has done shockingly well, like all things considered. It's clearly got room to improve, but like they just kind of crushed it coming out of the gate, and a big part of that is without question the fact that Xbox just ate so much shit. They like they I never seen a launch that botched outside of like maybe the Dreamcast.
Oh,
But like uh but Sony has been just crushing it, and a big part of that is just them securing like killer exclusive after killer exclusive. Like, before we started, we talked about like how it basically launched with Infamous Second Son, which I adored. I think that game is great. So and then shortly after that, it got Bloodborne, and then like what does it even like now it has Horizon, and it just keeps happening. I could be here all day, and this is say
Spider-Man,
nothing.
Spider-Man PS4, Detroit Become Human, God
Yeah,
of War, Days Gone. What is the Sucker Punch one? The
Oh,
Sensuous
Hellblade.
Sacrifice.
Yeah,
No.
Hellblade.
Oh no. That was not Sucker Punch. The Japan one.
um,
Crap.
I know.
I don't
I
know.
know what you're talking about. This is bugging me now.
Yeah, that's gonna bug me too. Interesting though.
Yeah.
Anyways, like, but I feel like, you see, here's the thing. What we got to look at with PlayStation though, for a period of like 3 years, we did not get a good exclusive. I mean, we got, what was it? There was Until Dawn, which, I mean, I think it sold a combined 3 million units. A really underrated game, Until Dawn. Whenever anybody's like, I want a game to play this Halloween, play Until Dawn. I mean, yeah, that you can have funny moments like me and my sister did, because like she, once again, not into video games whatsoever, and we did that whole thing when you like, who was that one, Emily or whatever, the one girl that's whatever. Well, like we wanted to kill her because she was being bitchy or whatever, and it was just like, God. And then when she didn't die the first time, we're like, are you kidding me? But it's such an underrated game. Then you got The Order 1886. And where I think that game had potential, I feel like they also were just like, get it out, we're done.
Yeah.
You know? And then like that was it. Then we got Uncharted 4, but there wasn't really any big PlayStation exclusives coming out then.
Well, I kind of feel like, and some people may disagree with me on this, but I kind of feel like Bloodborne was kind of such a big deal that it was enough to carry it through the drought almost. Because Bloodborne is such a good game, and like it had such a big impact on kind of the landscape and all of that. Even people like, I don't know anyone, even the people I know who casually play games have at least bought and played a bit of Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing was like kind of a low-key runaway. And like, what was it? So that game alone, like, if let's say it's like 2014 and you have like $400 in your pocket and you're looking to buy a console, are you going to buy the console with Bloodborne or the one without it?
Probably the one with Bloodborne. And
Exactly.
that was just like a perfect timing on Sony's part, though, too.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, there wasn't anything really out. And I think that's another thing. Like, Sony has just dominated the beginning of every year, except for this year. And we're getting into it now with, like, next month's God of War. And then the month after that is Detroit Become Human. And then sometime later this year is Spider-Man. I mean, I cannot tell you how excited I am for Spider-Man.
I am so excited for, like, I am kind of a minor Insomniac fanboy. Mm-hmm. So like I am so hype to see that game.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like it was announced in 2016. Through all of 2016, and then finally till E3 2017, we did not know anything about that game. It was just like, here's that teaser trailer. Here's the interview we did, and now we're going to be very silent. And I was just like, oh, God damn you, Insomniac. But it's cool, and like, I feel like that was Sony's other thing. And me and Fox talked about this after the podcast last time, and maybe we will do the same. But like, there's a definite story behind that. How Insomniac got the rights to make a Spider-Man game through Sony exclusively, that I would love to know that story.
Like, from what I heard, and don't quote me on this because this is just like the rumor I heard, but basically what happened is, from what I gather, Sony came to Insomniac and was just like, you can make any game you want. What do you want to make? And they said, we want to make a Spider-Man game. So they gave him Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like, don't quote me on that, but that's kind of what I heard. And it would kind of make sense because I will say, like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love Insomniac, but if I put myself in a mindset where I'm a Sony like CEO or whatever, Sony, like, so the person in charge of like Sony brand deals and all of that. Mm-hmm. And if I were looking at like first party or pseudo first party developers to hand the Spider-Man license to, I have no idea why they didn't hand it to Sucker Punch.
Exactly. Why? Because like Sucker Punch, like Infamous 1 and 2, and Second Son.
Those are comic book games. They're comic book games.
Exactly. So I don't know. We'll probably get into it later when we talk off the air. But like, there's a story there, especially, and I think it has something to do with Insomniac and Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah.
But anyways, like, then we get in. Let's get into like, let's go to Microsoft. Then we will end with Nintendo because I think me and you both have a different. Me and you both have a lot to say with Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft is just, I feel so bad for them, but at the same point in time, they did it themselves. What I don't understand is, Sony kind of played the game of, we're going to let Microsoft announce their new console first. And then like 2 months later, they did the whole PS4 reveal event. And that got so many good positive, so much good positive feedback. And Microsoft seeing this happen, they watched that. And they saw all the feedback. They were still like, well, we could turn around now and be like, we need to, take a break and kind of copy what Sony did, or we can buckle down on what we had planned. And they doubled down on what they had planned. And then they were just like, well, I can't believe everybody's upset. I'm like, you guys had 4 months between I think it was like 4 months between the announcement of the PS4 and then the Xbox One reveal event.
Like I'm convinced that in the future, like business teachers are going to like talk about the launch of the Xbox One because it's basically a crash course in everything not to do.
Oh, yeah, and that was like, I was an Xbox fanboy for last generation, and like this generation, I bought an Xbox One first, and then I bought PS4. But I was just like, what were you guys thinking?
It's like every wrong call, every like measuring of the zeitgeist they did, every crossroads they came to, they went with the wrong option.
Exactly. And it was legitimately like, what's Sony doing right? And then we'll do the opposite, because we got to be the opposite to Sony. We can't acknowledge that. And there was the whole used games controversy, the always online DRM, and you're just like, what were you thinking, Microsoft?
Well, the way I kind of read the whole situation is Microsoft came into it in much the same way that Sony came into the last console cycle, i.e., they were coming off of an era where they had more or less unchecked dominance within the markets they gave a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they kind of just assumed they were bulletproof. And they were not bulletproof.
Not at all.
No. Like, it's that kind of arrogance. The same kind of arrogance that leads you to try and sell your console for $600 is the same kind of arrogance that leads you to demand that to say that, like, for your fans who don't have internet, they should just stick with your old product. Like, that's the level of arrogance.
The people at Sony that E3 were dancing when they came out with the $500 price, or the $500 price tag.
Oh yeah, like, no, like,
boy.
The second like everything about the like Xbox One came out, they if I worked at Sony, I would immediately book a jacuzzi and the most expensive bottle of bubbly I could get. Yeah. Like,
and then like this last E3, I mean, we got to talk about this last E3 because like we're gonna go a day ahead of Sony, and we're like, let's be honest, Sony's E3 press conference was not like the best, and like it was nowhere near as good as 2016. But when they were like, we're gonna go a day ahead of Sony, we're gonna get out there because we got so many great things to announce. And like, you guys announced a Porsche, you guys did something with Crackdown 3 and tried to announce a release date, which we all knew you were not going to hit. And then you did Ori and the Blind Forest too. The Ori and the Whisper of the Willows or whatever. Yeah. That game I'm actually excited for. But like, that was it. And you guys like, seriously? And now they're doing it again this year. And then the Xbox One X launch or the release, the whole like, oh my God, look at this Xbox One, this Project Scorpio. They were taking it pretty much as as the new Xbox console until like a couple months before the reveal event. And I'm just like, what, guys? Okay, now I'm not bashing the Xbox One X because believe it or not, yesterday I actually went out and I got an Xbox One X because my Xbox died like 3 months ago, and I was like, oh fuck it, I want to play some Xbox games, but
Yeah.
But seriously, you guys it's like you guys didn't learn anything from your previous launches. We're gonna launch it at $600 or $500 again because we're just that smart. We're going to launch it with no game that's worth getting because once again we're just that smart.
Like that's the biggest problem facing Xbox right now, as far as I'm concerned. Like far and away is like, what game is there on Xbox that I need to get, that I can't get elsewhere?
State of Decay 2, but then again, you can buy that on the PC.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. Like they don't. Okay, one Xbox has what 7 first-party studios compared to Sony's like 13. And then they did the whole Xbox Play Anywhere thing, which is like, oh well, you can make an Xbox account, or you can just buy it on PC, and well, there you go. I'm like, excuse me, you're giving me absolutely no reason to own that Xbox. The only reason why I bought it is because I have an extensive collection of Xbox 360 and Xbox One games. That's it.
Yeah, like the backwards compatibility has been great, but like in terms of things that it has, like, what is there? Like,
yeah.
And they just keep canceling every exclusive they get. Like,
I know Sony supported The Last Guardian for 10 years. Microsoft canceled Scalebound after 2.
Yeah, like it's so exasperating because I do think I've used the Xbox One a fair amount, and I do think the product itself is actually pretty solid, especially at this point. But it's one of those things where it's just like, it comes back to what I said. If you and I were, say our house is burnt down or whatever, but we got like $10,000 to kind of rebuild our lives, and we have $400 in our pocket to buy a new console. Which one are you going to buy? Yeah, like no hesitation whatsoever. Yeah. Like
it's ridiculous, and it's all micro. And like, don't get me wrong, the Horizon looks good for Microsoft. Like this E3's kind of got me excited because once again, making some stupid decisions. We're going in front of Sony again. Okay, that worked out great for you the last 2 times, you guys. But anyways, now we're gonna host our E3 off to the side of E3. We're still gonna have a booth in E3, but we're also gonna have like our own little convention.
They're gonna have their own little special mini E3 where they can have Usher perform for the next 12 hours.
Okay, but guys, you're gonna their E3 press conference better be freaking amazing this year, or else I am gonna be very upset because I'm like, guys. You need to come out and be like, you can only play these games on Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Because even though I got one, and once again it's because I have a 4K television. I had a bunch of GameStop points, so I was able to get it a lot cheaper. And I wanted an Xbox because I want backwards compatibility and all that. So I had enough reasons to, and I got it for like $200 off. So I'm not that deeply invested in it. But to sit here and be like, yeah, this is going to be perfectly fine if they don't announce anything. For me, yeah, that's fine. If they don't announce anything this year that's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got an Xbox, I'd be okay with that. But for the guy that went out and supported the Xbox One X at launch, I was like, this is a new Xbox. They're going to bring out so many new games and be amazing. I'm going to feel really bad for that guy when it's just like crickets.
Yeah, like... I just don't see what's there. I will say, from the consumer perspective, for me, this is a great situation because I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't have to start like mentally calculating how I'm going to afford the $500 to buy a new console and the games that I want and all of that. And I don't have to make space and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, like, as a consumer, like, this is kind of a cool situation for me because everything worthwhile, like, well, rather 99% of the things that are worthwhile on the Xbox One, I can just get elsewhere, be it PC or the PS4.
Yeah.
But like, just looking at it through a business lens, it's just like, dude, you're on the ropes.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard more than a couple times that there are rumors about the Xbox brand potentially getting sold to Amazon,
Oh
and
boy.
yeah, like I would not be surprised. I like, especially since like from Microsoft's end, as them as a broader company, Xbox has done nothing but ever lose them money.
Yeah. I personally, I think more like Steam would want to buy the Microsoft brand or whatever. I could see Steam and Microsoft working good together.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting, but then again, I don't. Well, that's also. Uh, I genuinely don't know if Valve can afford it because Valve does have like endless money, but not like Microsoft endless money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I could see that happening, but I'm not entirely sure. Whereas Amazon is clearly kind of eyeing the games industry here and there. Like they bought
Hmm.
Twitch,
Yeah.
so you know, I think that like we'll see what happens. I
We'll
think Valve buying it isn't outside of the realm of possibility. I think although I don't know if they could afford it, Amazon I think is also very likely. It's also just as likely that it stays with Microsoft till the whole thing dies.
True. Well, speaking of endless money, let's get into the console that is like just printing money ridiculously and
Oh
has like
god.
no reason to. The Nintendo Switch or Nintendo. So where do you stand with Nintendo now? Because like I don't know about you, but I was the sap that went out and bought a Wii U. And I want to say that was like
Like
early 2013.
I still have my Wii U. I bought a Wii U about like a year or two after it dropped, and I do not even vaguely regret it. Because for me, the Wii U is kind of the like modern equivalent of the Dreamcast. Uh where it's one of those things where it's like it didn't blow up the world. It was kind of a failure, but it also had some of the best games like ever on it.
Oh yeah, I don't get me wrong. I love my Wii U. It is still hooked up to my TV today.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie and be like the Wii U was not a failure. I'm not in denial. I
Oh yeah.
understand that it failed harder than Tanya Harding at the Olympics. But I understand that. But I'm just like, oh my god, to see Nintendo go from the Wii U, which was I don't know if you how attached were you, like, reading the articles when everybody was like the Wii U's gonna be the end of Nintendo. You couldn't go like a month without hearing that.
Yeah, no, I remember all of those articles, all of the doomsaying, and like even at the time, I thought it was a bit silly because like this isn't the first time. Like everyone loves the GameCube now, but the
Yeah.
reality of the matter is the GameCube was also kind of like a failure. Not as big of a one, but it did not do well in the face of the PS2 and the Xbox.
Oh no, I think the Wii U is gonna be like like the GameCube in like 5-6 years, where everybody's just like, oh my god, it was such an underrated console. It had so many great games, and I can't wait till that day to be like, where were you guys when it was out, huh? Huh? Put your money where your mouth is, because I remember back in middle school when I was there playing the GameCube and talking about how amazing Wind Waker was, and everybody's just like, Joe, it's not that good. Wind Waker's crap. And now it's like everybody's coming out of the woodwork. Same with Majora's Mask. Oh my God, Wind Waker and Majora's Mask are like the best Zelda games. But to see Nintendo go from that doom and gloom state to now having a console that has sold over 14 million units in a year, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, let's be honest. A large portion of the success of the Switch was from its launch lineup. You know, of okay, we're launching this time, and we're gonna have Breath of the Wild at launch. A month later, we're gonna have what was it, Mario Kart 8. A month after that was Splatoon 2. A month after that was Mario plus Rabbids. A month after that was Fire Emblem, and then a month after that was Odyssey, and we'll wrap up with Xenoblade.
Yeah, like if the Switch was real, like definitive proof, not that there was any proof needed, but like it's a lesson that like Microsoft and even to a degree Sony just never internalize and never really execute on is games matter. Like it's weird, but games kind of matter.
It's
and
almost like if you put out a good game, people will want to play it, and you know.
Yeah, and they will throw down like I mean, I bought a PS4 coming back to Bloodborne. I bought a PS4 for Bloodborne. I bought that literally my mindset was I don't care if I buy this and never play another thing on it. I will gleefully pay like $300 to be able to play Bloodborne. And like the Switch like just came out with a ton of games like that. Like
yeah. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. And we talked about this before, but like Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda are good games, and Breath of the Wild are good games, I should say.
yeah.
But I feel like they are just drastically overrated though. Like they are solid 7 to 8s. They're not these 9s and 10s that are perfect masterpieces, you know. But like the fact of the matter is, they came out with a good game after good game. You know, there was like okay, a month after launch, they had freaking Mario Kart 8. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And a lot of this success couldn't have been done without the failures of you, though.
Yeah, because a lot of the most successful games right now for the Switch are games that were either planned for or were on the Wii U.
Yeah, Mario Kart 8. You cannot tell me that Odyssey was not planned to be the Wii U's 3D Mario game. Like you can't.
With that, from what I gather, Nintendo personally considers 3D World the 3D Mario game.
Yeah, but let's be 100% honest here, okay? That Super Mario Odyssey was in development for the Wii U. And then before they were even announcing it, they're like, the Wii U's tanking. We are not putting this there. You know, save it for the launch of our new console. And it's just like, we're at a position now, though, and I'm thinking, like, what does Nintendo have for the rest of the year? And yeah, we just got Smash. But, like, that's one good game out, and that's definitely going to launch in the fall with the online service. So what are we going to have in the next, what was it? So let's say Smash launches in October.
Yeah.
And we're in March right now. So what are we going to have for the next 7 months?
I think, well, I know
Warriors and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Those are two big
Kirby Star Allies, I think it's happening.
Yeah, but that's not like I'm talking about like system sellers, like, you know, like Odyssey and all that were. Because Nintendo obviously has a plan, because they came out.
Well, actually, like now that I think about it, Dark Souls is happening, which, you know, it's a re-release, but it's a re-release. It's its first release on a portable console.
That's true. I'm actually gonna buy. That's gonna be my first experience with Dark Souls for the PS4. For the PS.
I'm so jealous of you. I wish I could experience that game for the first time again. Kill the dogs first. You'll know what I mean. You'll know what I mean when it comes up. Kill the dogs first.
I played like a combined 30 minutes of Bloodborne, and I got my shit wrecked all the time. But I enjoyed it. I once again, I enjoyed it. It just, you know, time and all that took advantage and took it away. And, you know, surprisingly, I've managed to stay away from spoilers from Bloodborne from the entire time. I bought that game at launch, and I managed to stay away from all the spoilers.
Well, I will say it's one of those games that's kind of hard to spoil because everything is so interlocked and complex. Like, it's one of those things where if I told you that, like, oh, this character is actually part of this faction, I would then have to spend the next 15 minutes explaining what that faction is and how they connect to the world. You know what I mean?
Okay. But I'm like, I'm excited, and like Bloodborne is definitely one of those games where I'm just like, I gotta get back to it.
Oh yeah,
And
like
maybe
that game may actually like. I remember after I played it, I was just like, I think that might be the best game I've ever played. Like, even now, like, I don't know if it's my favorite game, but I try and think of games that are more tightly constructed in every single like way imaginable, and I'm coming up blank. Like
yeah.
maybe Morrowind, maybe.
Okay. Skyrim.
Mm, like I like Skyrim. I'm not one of the Skyrim. Like I'm not like on the burn down Skyrim camp, but like Skyrim doesn't feed back into itself in the way that like Morrowind or Bloodborne do, where is like everything in Bloodborne feeds back into that cosmic horror tone. Everything about it feeds back into that Victorian kind of Bram Stoker feel, and just this like sense of eldritch kind of hatred and all of that. Whereas like Skyrim, it can be very disparate. It doesn't have like doesn't have one unifying theme for the most part, and that's kind of what I mean. Like everything about Bloodborne is really cohesive and feeds back into like each other. It reinforces itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that's one thing that I've like everybody who's played Bloodborne is just like, you need to play Bloodborne. And I'm like, I will. I just got to get the time, and it's never worked out. But it's definitely like exciting, especially like I'm trying to get into streaming. Maybe that's one game I'll have to stream. I'll get my ass kicked, but no, well. You know, there's gonna be a Bloodborne 2 announced at E3.
Oh God, I'm like it's already been soft announced, and I need it in my life so badly. Like,
yeah, you know that game's not coming out until like next year, though, right?
Like I will always wait for it. Like, you know, I'm very much of the like the way I kind of approach game releases is I'll hear they're coming out and be like, okay, cool, I'm excited for that. I am now forgetting about it until it's on the shelf.
Yeah, that's me too, because I'm just like this, and people get all upset. Where's this game? I'm like, dude, you know, it's that infamous, or not infamous, but the famous Shigeru Miyamoto quote or whatever, where a good game is good forever, a bad game is bad, or a bad game is bad forever, but a delayed game can be good, or whatever.
Yeah,
something along
exactly.
that line. And I'm like, you know, that's why when everybody's like freaking out about delays, I'm just like, guys, just give them the time to make the game.
Yeah, because like I'm someone who I'm constantly waiting with bated breath for Devil May Cry 5, and like there was rumors a couple years ago that like they were looking at releasing it like a year ahead from there, which clearly didn't happen. But I heard that and I was like, please don't let that be true, because that means that they rushed it, that they just rushed it out the door. And like, yeah, it's one of those things where like I'll just wait for it. I might get annoyed with the wait. I want Devil May Cry 5 right now. I wanted Persona 5 right now for like ever. like
but for me
like
and Persona, it was like I was not gonna play Persona 5 till I played Persona 4.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that game so much. Oh, Persona 4 is so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Persona 4 Golden is like, I think maybe the most complete game I've ever played. And by that I mean usually when I play a game, I'm just like, this game is great, but I wish it had this, or I wish they put in this feature, or etc. I cannot think of literally anything to add to Golden.
Oh, it's so good. We're getting off topic.
Yeah.
Let's steer this shit back into Nintendo.
But yeah.
But what do you think's gonna, like, we got 7 months now, so what's Nintendo gonna do?
I kind of feel like Nintendo is going to coast on like ports, because it's one of those things that like we come back to what I said before, where let's say you have $400 and you're looking at what to buy.
This is your favorite analogy, isn't it?
For right now, for the purposes of this conversation, it is. But like it's a great tool to like figure out business decisions. And
Yeah.
like to that end, like you've got $400 and you can get Dark Souls on the PS4 or you can get Dark Souls on the Switch. This you see, and this is the difference between like the PS4 fight with the Xbone and the PS4's fight with the Switch is you're always going to go with the PS4 over the Xbox One because why wouldn't you? Like,
Exactly. But then the
whereas
Switch brings in like, well, I can take this anywhere, and I can still
exactly,
play it on my big TV.
yeah, exactly, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, the only drawback is the Switch can't play in 4K, but like I don't have a 4K TV. Most people I know don't have a 4K TV.
Exactly.
Like, you know, so whatever, who gives a shit? Like, and this is why I think it's going to be really interesting over the next like couple years to see how Sony and Nintendo interact, especially since Nintendo is kind of like branching out into like other developers. I mean, a Dark Souls game is appearing on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us have fully appreciated how weird and wild that is, and kind of how weird and wild it is that it is so weird and wild.
Well, like, it's interesting to see because, like, with the Wii U, they started doing that. You know, like they gave the Zelda property to Koei Tecmo, and they did that with Hyrule Warriors, and then they did it again with Fire Emblem Heroes. And we saw this in start with the Wii U, and they did stuff with Namco Bandai back with the GameCube. But we started seeing them do this, and now they're continuing to do this with the Switch. And it's cool to see. Like I always say this with my friend Donnie, and we've been friends forever, and he's a big Nintendo guy, and he's actually debating on buying a Switch, and he doesn't play video games at all. But like I said, we're seeing a different Nintendo, but one that still has some of the baggage from the old Nintendo.
Yeah.
You know? And it's willing to be like, okay, we're gonna put out rated M games, we're gonna be more mature, we're gonna try and capture a different audience. But then we're also seeing one that's just like, yeah, screw you, streamers.
Yeah, like it's a very like if I had to guess, Nintendo internally is kind of at a cultural impasse with their own like corporate culture.
Yeah.
In that you can at least I'm really getting the sense that like fresh blood is coming in, blood that knows what the zeitgeist of gaming in both America and Japan is right now.
Exactly.
Like knows what's wanted and knows what's needed, and they're finally getting a really strong voice. But you still have all of the traditionalists still around, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I had to guess, and I hate to say this, but if I had to guess, it's probably going to stay this way until Miyamoto leaves the company for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because, near as I can tell, he's kind of like the last of the old guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big reason that Nintendo is kind of stuck with a lot of those traditionalist, old school, like 80s style business tactics.
Yeah. But here's another thing we need to look at though. Like with Nintendo having such success with the Wii, well, not with the Wii U, but with the Switch. Do you remember? Like what was it last year? Sometime a patent was leaked or found from Sony, and it's a Switch-like device for a handheld that has detachable like PlayStation controllers. Do you think we're going to be seeing that then, or do you think Sony's done with handhelds?
I do not know. I genuinely do not know. Like,
because I think Sony's crazy enough to do it. I think Sony's like, well, we're making so much money with PS4,
like
we can try it,
because like I on the one hand, like if I worked at Sony and I was in charge of the business end of all of that, I would probably say no to it. But then again, I probably also would have said no to the Vita.
Yeah.
So clearly they don't care that much for whatever reason, whether or not the handheld will be successful. They seem almost more concerned with like having one. And likewise, Sony is definitely one to chase trends, like very thoroughly. Like we all remember PlayStation Move and all of that, which is
Yeah.
basically just stealing the Kinect and the Wiimote. Like clearly they have no shame on that front. They're they're the only of the three console manufacturers to really throw down on VR. So like, yeah, they have no qualms with like chasing trends and doing what's popular in the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Will it be successful? Like that, I think is going to be more interesting because like I've long contested that like Sony could very easily have the best handheld in the world if they just let themselves. The
Yeah.
Vita, like to this day, I don't know why they didn't just drop the PS1 library on the Vita and call it a day.
I know. I
Because
love the Vita. That's an amazing handheld.
I've never seen any product with more potential that wasn't met. Like it's
Yeah.
unreal.
But then again, I think like once again we're talking about like two different Sonys at that time. You know, like there was a Sony that was a definite that was a handheld made by the old Sony from PlayStation, like from the beginning of PlayStation 3, and the Sony that was making the PlayStation 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if they would have held the Vita back and maybe entangled its use with the PlayStation 4 a lot more. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
made it an actual like add-on to the PlayStation 4. I would love to be able to see how it would have turned out, because essentially the Vita is the Switch before the Switch.
Yeah.
And it would have been interesting to see what would have turned out from that though. And I still like it's crazy to think that like just last month we got Secret of Mana released for the Vita. So there's there's people still there getting games put on the Vita, because like I know indie people are like, yeah, the Vita, like we sell a lot of like indie games just from the Vita. And now we're seeing that a lot more with the Switch, because like I believe, what was it, like Stardew Valley and Tom Happ from Action Verge came out and said like they sold ridiculously good on the Switch.
Yeah, like the Vita until the release of the Switch was kind of the best place to play a lot of indie games, because I remember like Salt and Sanctuary got announced and I was just like, it turned like it I was sure it would be a good game, but I didn't know how I'd feel about sitting in front of a PS4 playing it. But as a Vita game, I've adored it,
Yeah.
I get to essentially play 2D Dark Souls on the go. And it's but Nintendo kind of like took that and ran with it and made a better product.
Yeah,
and now they own the world.
Yeah, that's what like Persona 4 so good was on the Vita, because you like, I can play this here. I'm sitting here. Oh, I gotta go somewhere. I'm just gonna keep playing. Like that's the majority of my playtime was on P4.
Oh yeah.
And then Uncharted Golden Abyss, and then like I got one or two other games, but they're not that good. So, anyways, we've been talking now for about an hour and 8 minutes. Is there anything else?
Oh damn, we have.
Yeah, that went quick. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. So I think it's time we wrap this up. We'll definitely have to have you come back on again. Maybe me and you and Fox will all have to do one.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I thank you so much for watching. Check out Ryan's channel, Codex Entry. We didn't even talk about your Nintendo video, which was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that video's been blowing up recently. I actually have a ton of comments on my iPad right now from that have been posted in this time, and a lot of people are very angry at me.
Well, I don't understand why. Like that video, like you didn't say anything that wasn't true.
Like honestly, the real answer to that is, I hate to be this guy, but the answer to that is they don't finish the video.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. I can see that struggle there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, such is life when you make a 28-minute video about why Nintendo's bad.
That's true. Well, you even mention, not that I would know this. Hey, it's not like I made 2 Xbox videos. and got some hate from it. But like, it's just sad.
Yeah.
They really hate me 3 times when I released that new Xbox video that I've been working on. Kind of pulling at my collar on that one. Anyways, guys, check out Ryan's channel. He puts out some amazing content. You'll be putting out some more soon, ain't you? You tease the Devil May Cry, another Persona video.
Yeah, tons of stuff over the next month. I'm expecting at least 3 videos, maybe 4. Like, it's going to get really active really fast. And I'm going to start streaming a lot more too. So be on the lookout for that.
That's what I'm gonna hopefully start doing too. Streaming's fun.
It is
fun, interactive way. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you tell us what you think of whatever we discussed about here, I can't remember everything. It's a good, fun conversation. That's how you know it was good. But tell me down below in the comment box. While you're down there, you might as well hit that subscribe button. And I thank you so much for watching. See ya. You don't want to say bye? Why does no one ever want to say bye at the end of these things?
I wasn't sure what to do.
Bye.
Bye.